Hey guys, what's going on? Aaron here. Welcome to the video. So, could we see a summer pullback? Well, it's likely, but since we saw a really bizarre first half of this year, I don't know if it's going to happen to the degree we saw it back in 2017 and 2021. There are a couple charts that I want to go over, including the M2 money supply chart and also the Bitcoin cycle banana zone chart here, which does project a midsummer correction. And this chart right here, which is essentially showing what happens right before altcoin season, and we have been hitting some of these support and resistance levels. So what I want to start out right here is talking about the M2 money supply, which a lot of people have been talking about. Now, you may notice that this doesn't really show what's going on. And what happens is if you just take Europe and Japan's money supply, it begins to look a lot more accurate. So here, this is Europe and Japan's M2 money supply. You can see the dip that happened in the summer of 21. It shows here in the M2. You can see the massive bear market that we went through during 2022 and 2023. And this chart shows that we're hitting a small peak around July 7th of this year. Now, could that happen? Possibly. I'm going to share some more stats on this in just a moment, but take a look here. This is the Bitcoin cycle banana zone chart from Raoul Pal over on X Twitter. He's projecting, because this happens every 4 years, a correction in the summer. So will that happen in July? Not quite sure. I'm going to share some reasons why and why not in this video. So right here, this is the correction that we already saw for the year. And you can see this is a lot larger than the one we saw 4 years ago. And the reason is because of this. Bitcoin had an unusually horrible year so far in terms of its ROI. So in 2025, we actually went down over 20%, as a lot of you guys know. Whereas in 2021, 4 years ago, we were up almost 2x the same time. This time we were down 20%. So is this beginning of the year sell-off for Bitcoin going to lessen the intensity of a summer sell-off, which we usually see? We usually see Bitcoin pull back 30, 40, 50% in the summer, and then altcoins can obviously pull back 60 or 70%. That's not uncommon. And this chart right here is showing how much the entire crypto market space is being held by Bitcoin and stablecoins, USDT and USDC. And we're hitting some previous lines of support and resistance right here. So in 2020, this went to around 76%. Right now, we are sitting at around 69%. But what we saw before true altcoin season was this massive decline in Bitcoin's dominance and stablecoins dominance. So what that means is that the crypto market cap was made up of more altcoins. So less Bitcoin and less stablecoins, are essentially like the US dollars, right? So that's what precipitated, or that's what started the massive altcoin season we saw in 2021. And right now, we have been just teetering in this range for a little bit. And I think there's a good chance in the next month or two that we could see, what a horrible arrow, we could see this begin to decline like we saw here. Now, no guarantees. There's nothing guaranteed in the crypto world whatsoever. But this chart is showing that Bitcoin is going to break over $150,000 pretty soon. If that happens, if I had to guess, Ethereum and then Solana will also break all-time highs. And then here, this shows that Solana will be hitting, $400 pretty soon as well. And speaking of Solana, I want to talk about Tars AI just for a moment because they are the only AI-backed coin that's built on Solana. Now, Tars is a channel partner, just full transparency there, but we are in this really interesting support range with a lot of resistance and support right now for this coin. We're about 4x less than the all-time high for this coin. And if Solana, in my opinion, could be wrong, but if Solana decides to rally to new all-time highs, I think other coins that are built on Solana will also piggyback. That's usually what happens. So if Ethereum rallies really hard, then the Ethereum layer 2s and meme coins that are built on Ethereum will also rally as well. So if Solana does a 4x, a lot of these other coins, possibly Tars, can do a much higher rate of return than the layer 1 that it's built on. So TARS is also the only AI Solana project in the NVIDIA Inception program. It's the only Solana AI project in the Google Startup program, and it's the only Solana AI project to meet the Amazon Web Service AWS team in person. The team just announced that from all of their products, they will now be having ads and sponsorship slots, and all the revenue they get is going to go into buybacks. So they closed a client for $250K, burnt all the tokens. They are planning to buy back over 37.5 million tokens over the next 3 to 4 weeks. So they are aggressively buying back their tokens, which can help the price. And they have a lot of Web 2 sponsorships and connections through Solana, obviously, and NVIDIA as well. So going back to the whole M2 money supply thing, if I just add all the other countries here, I just want to show you kind of where we are at. And this is on a 12-week delay. So you can just type in 12 right here. We are seeing right now, again, this like early July peak. If we add in all the other countries, it doesn't look the same. We don't really see a drop off. So that's why this M2 is a little bit, well, you can believe it or you don't have to believe it. But if you look at the phases, this is a lot more, I think, indicative of probably what is going to happen. Same with charts like this that are floating around Twitter and YouTube all the time. It's showing around $150,000 Bitcoin. Now, will this happen if everybody thinks it's going to happen? We don't know. We don't really know. Taking a look right here, though, this is why a lot of people leave in May and come back in Q3. Because taking a look right here, this is Bitcoin's quarterly returns. So for Q3, it is abysmal. It is on average 6% for Bitcoin, whereas Q1 is 51%, Q2 is 26%, and Q4 is 85%. For Ethereum's quarterly returns, it's even worse. Q3 is less than 1% at 0.88%, Q1 77%, Q2 64%, and Q4 23%. So will we see as drastically horrible of a Q3 this year? Well, I think it's interesting because Trump already essentially crashed the market earlier this year. And this is unlike other post-halving years. Like I showed you in 2021 and 2017, the beginning of those years, Bitcoin went up a ton. Whereas this year, Bitcoin basically went down, right? We had a massive, massive decline for Bitcoin and altcoins as well. So that could lessen the intensity of a mid-summer sell-off like we usually see in Q3. And if you are a trader, you can check out BTCC where they're giving a massive 10% bonus on first-time deposits up to $10,055 per user. So if you want to play with leverage, if you are a professional trader, this is there for you. I'll leave the link to that below. So just to summarize, what am I looking at? Well, when it comes to taking profits in the summer, you know, if you believe that Bitcoin's going to $1 million, does it make sense to try to time it? Maybe not. But if you have some altcoins that massively rallied 2, 3, 400%, should you take some profits? I personally am in the camp of, yeah, take some profits. So what am I looking at personally? Well, like I was talking about back in December, when people are beginning to talk about Bitcoin and Ethereum and mostly like XRP in coffee shops, it's usually a time for me to get out or to take profits. I'm always out. I am out and about, sitting in coffee shops, going to restaurants, hanging out with people. And when I'm hearing just like conversations about, hey, I bought a Bitcoin mining machine, I'm like, all right, time to take some profits. I saw that in December, and I was telling you guys that in December, like, hey, there's a lot of hype happening right now, and it may be a good idea just to be cautious because everybody's diving in. I'm having friends asking me, hey, what coin should I buy? Fartcoin went up 3,000%. Should I buy Fartcoin? I'm like, no, you should not be chasing green candles, guys. So that's really what I'm looking at. Also, the Japan and EU M2. If that really begins to go down, I will let you guys know in the station. Subscribe if you want to catch that. And also, if there is an extreme amount of greed, the whole fear and greed monitor, which I will be monitoring, if that goes crazy, which we're not right now, we're still kind of in an okay zone. If that gets super freaking greedy, like we saw back in December and early January, that's another sign that I'm like, all right, time to peel back some profits. But other than that, guys, I mean, if you're just investing in Bitcoin and you think Bitcoin's going to $1 million, then, you know, why sell? It also has to do with where you live, taxes, short-term capital gains, long-term capital gains. Depending on where you live, I mean, selling can actually be very, very different. So that also has an effect on what you decide to do too. So that is it for the video. Hope you guys are doing well. Till next time, talk with you soon, and bye for now.